Welcome to your masterclass on evolution scaling. In this class, you're going to learn your next steps. So you've launched your ads. Now, what do you do, right? How you analyze your data to understand what you would do with every single ad. When do you pause your ads? When do you pause your losers? When do you scale your winners? That's what you're going to see here. For scaling, you're going to learn about the evolution scaling method, also called the variables scaling method, which is our proprietary scaling framework. I've never seen this before. It's very intuitive, but also it's very, very powerful. And I've used it throughout this over a decade. I've been media buying and over hundreds of millions of dollars of ad spend. So hopefully you'll find value in it as well. Also, we're gonna teach you how it ties to the variables testing framework. So you test it first, and then you scale obviously your winners that you found. You also understand the campaign structures that you're gonna use to apply this framework. And finally, we're gonna connect the scaling framework with this the vertical and horizontal scaling. So let's jump into it, guys. This is our immediate next steps checklist while obviously being aware of your budget. So typically you're not going to be able to do every single one of these points in your checklist, at least not for the scaling, because you still want to be going slow, especially until you don't find profitability. You need to be going slow. After you're profitable, obviously you can try to speed up things because you're already making money by definition, okay? But sometimes it can take a couple of days. There are people who are profitable day one, but it's not common. But in a couple of days, it's definitely possible you're already profitable. For some people, it takes more time. It can take a couple of weeks, and it's completely normal as well. Like I've seen people that honestly, I was thinking, oh, damn, this person didn't get results immediately. That's a bit rare. Maybe it's not for them. But then after even like 2 3 months, they absolutely crushed. They were super, super profitable. That's even rarer, right? Typically, within a couple of weeks, you should be profitable for sure if you follow this method. And obviously, you're going to have access to the weekly calls as well, where we're going to be accompanying you guys to make sure you're understanding these framework. And at the end of the day, guys, it's also about building lifelong skills. It's not only about trying to be profitable as fast as possible in this training, which you absolutely should, but also it's about understanding how to be a good marketer, a good advertiser, and run ads. And honestly, this knowledge was worth to me multiple six figures a year, even before doing my own thing, even before being an affiliate like you guys are, even before being an entrepreneur like you guys already are. So congratulations if you're already here. But here's what you're going to do. So this is the immediate next steps checklist in the pay-per-call space. This is what we refine for you. For every profitable ad, meaning by a profitable ad, I'm also going to call these ads winners, and everything is not profitable, I'm going to call them losers. When they're profitable for more than a day, so typically at least 2 days, then that's what I mean by profitable ad. It's not just profitable for a day, it's profitable for at least 48 hours, so at least 2 days. For each profitable ad, I create 3 variations of what we call micro variables. So remember the micro variables: colors, call to actions, design, texts as well. So the primary text, headlines. So you're going to change small things, and you're going to have 3 ad sets, each with a different variation. Also aiming to spend $10 to $15. If you're using daily budgets, as I taught you, then probably your budget needs to be around $20 to $30 if you're using daily budgets, because it's not going to spend 100% of your budget. So 10 to 15 bucks is really what you're aiming to spend. Your budget is going to be between $20 and $30. Okay. For every unprofitable ad that got calls, you're going to create a variation for each, but changing a macro variable. So either changing the messaging or changing the visual format or even the angle. When they hit the KPIs to be paused, because you're going to be using a $1 million testing protocol. So you're using the gates, gate 1, gate 2, gate 3. You're going to pause them, obviously, because they're unprofitable, and replace the testing budget with your variations. So let's say you have an ad that you're testing with $20 budget. So you did the most conservative type of budget with daily budgets. And it's getting new calls. It's for a good cost, but it hits gate 3. It spends $70 and it's unprofitable, right? Let's say it has $50 or $60 even in payout. Of course, it's unprofitable, so we need to pause it because it's making you lose money. It's what we call a loser, so you need to pause it. However, you're going to replace this $20, $30 testing budget with a variation of that ad, trying to make it better. There are many ways you can do that. I'm going to show you a few ways during this class, obviously, because it's a scaling class. One of the ways is, for example, stacking mental triggers. So trying to make it even better. Another way is changing a macro variable here, right? So, for example, I'm going to completely change the angle. I'm going to change the messaging in it. For unprofitable ads that didn't get calls or had too high CPCs, you need to know down what was the angle, the format, and the messaging, so the macro variables, so you don't repeat the losing patterns. And the losing patterns are going to change account by account, but I see a lot of people making this mistake where they're testing ads that are too similar from one another day one, right? Or even the first few days or even the first few weeks, and they don't realize it. They think they're testing too many ads. They say, wow, Antonio, I've tested 20, 30 ads, but it's not enough, because if they're not different enough, you're not actually testing completely different things. You're not trying to stand out. So it's very important that you really test completely different ads. If they're not really different, you won't be doing well. You're not actually testing, right? So that's why it's very important to note down what also, if you can, and that's, to be honest, that's optional, because a lot of people, they crush straight away day one in the very first few days. That's normal in this space, because it's very easy to get paid calls initially, even in the first few days. However, I recommend ideally that you take notes of the ones that completely didn't perform, because if they're completely unprofitable and didn't get you anything or have too high CPCs, probably, I just don't want to test exactly the same thing over and over and over again, because I already know it doesn't work. So that's how you make sure you're always evolving. So quick recap: if it's a profitable ad, creates variations of micro variables, so small variables, to try to scale it. If it's unprofitable, so if it's not profitable, but it got calls, or it's close to being profitable, you can create macro variations, try to make them better so they can get over the hump and actually be profitable. And then obviously for completely unprofitable ads, I just want to make sure, even if you don't want to take note of every single variation that you tested, which you absolutely don't, but at least you need to make sure you keep testing completely different ads, because otherwise you're just testing ads that are similar, but they're not working. It's just not going to work, right? So what is the evolution scaling method? So let's say you're already following this and you have profitable ads. If you're not, obviously, you can just keep following the checklist. So you can keep creating macro variations. You can keep changing big variations from your ads until you find profitable ads. That's the first goal, finding profitable ads, obviously. And sometimes it can take a little bit more. Sometimes even the first few days you can get there. But once you find profitable ads, it's time to implement the evolution scaling method, which is a very powerful method. So it's a form of scaling while you test new variables. And similarly, if you think about it, it's vice versa. It's a form of testing while you scale your winners. This is the step-by-step. Now, first, you need to identify your variable winners with ad grouping. So remember when I taught you guys how to check on data in Keitaro, and you can do the same via your Facebook Ads Manager as well. You don't even need to check Keitaro if you don't want to. But ideally, you want to check the ads that have ROI, what we call return on investment, meaning as they are profitable. If you don't have profitable ads yet, obviously, you can also use the cost per payout and the cost per call. But I recommend that when you're doing evolution scaling, that you're just scaling, obviously, profitable ads. So after you have identified your profitable ads, step 2 to use evolution scaling is ranking your winners by how much better they are. So, for example, I have three winners that are profitable, but there's one that's much more profitable than the other ones. This is my top winner. So if I don't have enough testing budget, and that's literally based on your finances and how much you're willing to test money-wise until you can find a winner. If I don't have much, I'm just going to use that winner, that main winner that's super profitable, to create variations out of it. So step 3, I'm going to combine this main winner with my other winners to create 3 brand new ads, but ideally just changing small variations of my main winner. And then naturally, because I have to launch these 3 new ads, I'm increasing my budget while testing new but small variations, but also overall I'm spending more money. So that's a way to scale while you're keeping the big variables the same, but you're testing new mini variables, and that's how you can iterate fast as well. So here's the major variable winners. Still, the top 3 variables, guys, that you're going to use to identify your winners, to identify your profitable ads, are the angle, the format, so the visual style, and the messaging in the ad copy. So if you found a profitable ad already, you can simply change micro variables. So for example, sometimes you don't even need to change angles, formats, and messaging to keep scaling. You can just changing small things, the colors, the call to actions, right, and things like that. I always recommend, however, that you're always trying to improve your ad. You're not just changing something small just for the sake of changing something small. You're actually trying to improve your ad. You're trying to put another mental trigger. You're trying to make it more visually appealing. You try to have more engagement in your ad. So try to be very intentional. Try to have a goal when you're creating new variations. You can also test different ad copy in duplicated campaigns. Remember, guys, when we launched, we're not testing different pieces of text. We're just having our absolute best primary copy, or the one we thought was the absolute best and the absolute best headline in our ads. However, now if you already have winning visuals that are profitable, I heavily recommend that you start testing new copy, so new text. That's very important. And in that case, if you're just testing the copy, for example, you wouldn't be changing your visual at all. You wouldn't be changing your image or your video. You would just be duplicating your ad, so meaning your ad set, because you want to be spending more. Obviously, that's why you would be scaling. So you'll be just duplicating your ad set with your one winning ad, with your profitable ad, but just changing the text, just changing the copy. And if that's still too abstract, the next two classes I'm going to show exactly how to do evolution scaling in the Ads Manager in practice, so screen sharing. But this class is going to be more about the concepts, so you understand the overall concepts. And you can also test different campaign structures. That's another way as well to do evolution scaling. So just grabbing your winners and testing with different campaign structures. For example, doing ABO versus CBO. Initially, we start testing with ABO, so the budget is at the ad set. Remember, right? So when you're creating a campaign, you toggle off campaign budget optimization, so advantage budget as well, as it's called in many accounts. So you spend at the ad set level. However, you can also test spending at the campaign level. So you wouldn't toggle off that little option at the campaign level. If you check your ads manager, you pause it and check it there. You wouldn't be toggling off advantage plus budget, meaning you will spend at the campaign level. If you already have winners, you can just duplicate your campaign and making sure in your duplicated campaign, in your new campaign, you only have your winners spending at the campaign level. And you can also test, for example, state-based callouts, which I think is a very advanced strategy, which I absolutely love, and it can absolutely crush. So you can grab your winning states, and this is something that you can check in K-Taro as well, in Mock-A-Call as well. You can grab your winning states, grab your winning ads, and make sure you create a version of your winning ad. For example, if your winning ad is saying limited spots to change your auto insurance plans, or to get more affordable auto insurance plans. I'm just really improvising. It's not a really good angle or messaging, to be honest. But let's say that's what your ad says. For example, you could try having that ad for Michigan. So saying Michigan residents can now change their auto insurance plans, limited spots. And then in your ad set, you just target Michigan as well. That's a very cool strategy. I'm actually going to cover that strategy as well in practice in one of the next few classes. You can even try avatar callouts as well. Remember in the beginning, we tried keeping a little bit more generic, so not trying to call out specifically homeowners, seniors, and all these types of avatars, even veterans. This is now something that I will test. At this point, I've already launched my first ads. I already get my better ads, ideally profitable ads that are making money. Now I can duplicate them and change them a bit with an avatar, for example. So for example, now I would say seniors have limited time to change their auto insurance plans. Veterans have limited time to change their auto insurance plans and make them even better, stack more mental triggers. The combinations are really endless, guys. It's an infinite game. You only lose if you just give up on testing, but you should never, because it's very easy to get results when the combinations are so endless and you can actually crush. Obviously, I'm going to talk about a few combinations that I love. These will probably be my top ones, by the way, the ones I just mentioned, but we're also going to show in practice how to do each of them. So here's the 80-20 of the scaling method, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure at some point you're spending 80% of your budget going to winners, so profitable ads for at least more than a day, and 20% to brand new testing, so testing completely new ads. Having said that, it's always important, and that's very important, it's always important for you to be testing completely new ads. There are a lot of people that got stuck at some point because they stopped testing new stuff. They're just testing micro variations of the stuff they already tested. That's not good. Always be testing completely new stuff. Obviously, day one, 100% of your budget is by definition testing, because we never know what's going to work, to be very honest. Even though we're great advertisers, and the very first two modules were to prepare you to be an amazing advertiser, an amazing marketer who understands about the psychology, about how to create converting texts, converting visuals. But obviously, we don't know. So 100% of our budget is testing. And each and every day you find a profitable ad set, it becomes part of your winning budget. So now you can try to have this mental calculation going on in the back of your mind. Honestly, this is a little bit optional, but I think it's very advanced, but it's very cool for you to have this in the back of your mind as well. You can understand, wow, now I have these two ads that are profitable. So if they're each spending, let's say as an example, they're each spending $20 a day. So you have two, so that's $40 a day, and your overall budget is 100. So we have 40% of budget going to winners. And ideally, you want to try to get closer to 80-20, to 80% of your budget is going to winners. Easier said than done, because for you to get there, you actually need to find winners first. And this is what this is all about, okay? So obviously you need to keep testing until you get closer to that 80-20, to 80% of winners and 20% of testing. So here's a step-by-step example, guys. And this is the last abstract example we're going to have, because after that, in the next few classes, I'm actually going to screen share and in practice show you what I mean by scaling, how to create variations of your ads, and all this fun stuff. So here's a step-by-step example. Let's say day one, you have $45 testing budget. You followed our recommendation. You're testing the minimum amount of ads, let's say 3 ads, each in one ad set. So 1 ad each ad set. Day two, you read the data within Kitaro. You can do the same via Facebook Ads Manager. I even sometimes prefer via Facebook Ads Manager because it's everything within the same place. I don't need to go back and forth between Facebook and Kitaro. You did a group by ad, and you saw that ad two got a call for $15, and the other two ads didn't. Ad one had a CPC over $2, and ad three had a CPC under $1, which is, by the way, is very rare. Just to be very, very clear, it's very, very rare. So you could pause ad set one with the ad one, because CPC rule over $1.5. We even increased the CPC rule to $2.5. But for example, in this case, because you have one ad that has a cost per click under $1, you could very well pause the one that's the worst between the three, because it has a cost per click over $2 and it doesn't have any calls. And you can replace this one and you just pause because it has the highest CPC. So even though it's still below $2.5 as a cost per click goal, because that's the first gate, remember, in your $1 million testing protocol. So if you don't remember that, please check your $1 million testing protocol PDF once again. However, even though it's actually doing better than the $1 million testing protocol, because it's the worst between the three, it will still be understandable to pause that ad set with the first ad, because it has the highest CPC and it doesn't have a call as well, and replace it with a variation of ad two that got the call. Why is this? Even though it's not profitable yet, it's the best one you have, because it's the only one that got you a call so far. This would be a very normal day one, to be very honest. I've seen a lot of people getting even paid calls in profitable day one, but maybe normal was just having little data, especially because it's a brand new pixel, it's a brand new account. So you don't have a lot of data. So this would be a great example of what I would do. For example, I would pause the one that has the worst CPC and doesn't have any calls, and I would do a variation of the one that got a call, because obviously a call is always more important than a click. That's very important. And right now is the best that you have. Day three, let's say ad two got another call and a payout for $30. So the one that already got a call now had a payout as well, and it's breaking even for the first 48 hours. So essentially spend $30 to get $30. Because remember, day two, you had got a call for $15, but no payouts. Now you got a payout for $30, which is the average payout. And also, you got another call. So the cost per call is $15 because you got two calls for $30 spent. The cost per payout is $30 and it's breaking even, which is good, which is decent for the first 48 hours. You're still not testing much. And at three, albeit having a good CPC because it had a great CPC under $1, it didn't get a call, so you pause it because it already spent $30 as well. Probably all of them spent around the same amount of money. It's not going to be exactly the same thing because obviously you're not letting them run for the whole day. You're just letting them run during the call center hours, as we explained. But it didn't get a call, so you pause it. Normal as well, because once again, getting a call is more important. Gate two, you need to have a good cost per call. It's not just about clicks anymore. The most important thing is going to be calls, and obviously the most important thing after that is going to be paid calls and making money, being profitable. So that's why you paused at three, even though we had the best cost per click. Sometimes this can happen. Not always the best cost per click is going to be your best profitable ad, and it's normal. So part two, now you pretty much have three valid options, and it's completely a personal choice. Option one, you can pause ad three, which probably should either way, and replace its testing budget with a completely new ad. Because remember, guys, I always recommend that you're testing completely new ads in the beginning, and it's possible here because you want to find more winning variables. Even the ad that is break even is not actually making money; it's just breaking even. So in this case, I'll just keep testing completely new ads, and I absolutely love option one. Option two, you can pause ad three. You have to do it regardless because you already spent $30, didn't even get a call. So it's really past gate two already. It's actually, you could even have paused this a little bit before. And you can replace its testing budget with your current winner, ad two, but testing a different headline. This is evolution scaling because you're grabbing your winner, even though your winner is not a profitable ad for 2 days, but it's at least the best ad. Maybe I wouldn't even call it a winner yet, but at least it's the better ad that you have between all the ads you tested, and you can test a different headline. Or you can do both. So you can both pause ad three and replace this budget with the current winner. But in this case, you'll be increasing your testing budget. So for example, you would pause ad three, you would test a complete new ad, and you also create a variation of the winner. So obviously you're increasing your overall budget. You're increasing your testing budget because in this case you got one that was spending $15 a day and you replace it with two ad sets, right? Each spending $15 a day for the next day. One that is a completely new one because you need to keep finding completely new ones, and another one that has just a variation of your current winner, even though it's not profitable, but it's your winner right now. Okay, so all of these are options. If you have enough budget, I'll probably do option three, just because I'm both testing something that's completely different because I need to keep doing that, and also because I already have some kind of data. I have an ad that's break even, so it has good potential if it's break even already within 48 hours. So I still want to be trying to create variation of it to try to make it better. So I love option three. Option three is a perfect example of evolution scaling. To be honest, option two still evolution scaling, but I don't think it's the best option here just because the winner is not actually a profitable ad yet. So I don't feel super confident still just doing small variations of it. Also, if it was a winning ad, regardless, it's already profitable. So I could just try to do a small variation and also just duplicate and test a complete new ad as well. Because I don't mind actually increasing my testing budget because actually now I have the same testing budget. Even though I still testing a complete new ad, I already have an ad that's profitable. So it's not part of my testing budget anymore. So if you need, no problem, we watch it, but we're also going to have a few classes talking about how to make these decisions. And honestly, in the live calls, the weekly live calls, it's going to be so important for you guys to be asking these questions as well. We review the data, we review the ads, we talk about how getting them to be even better and how to make decisions based on data. But when in doubt, follow the $1 million testing protocol and also follow the next steps checklist that we covered earlier in the class. The only variable that's going to change things a bit is obviously how much you're comfortable testing every day until you're profitable. After you're profitable, obviously it doesn't even matter because you're already making money. So you can just keep testing because you're already making money. But until you're making money, you need to understand, okay, how long can I actually test, right? So here's the conclusion of our example. Option two is when we use the variable scaling method or the evolution scaling method because we'll be testing a new headline with our winning image. So we're testing a winning concept and just testing a small variable with a concept, in this case, a headline. So, and we could honestly test any other variable from the variables framework. We could try to get our winning image in this case, and we could test a different structure. So ABO versus CBO, or we can test state-based just for Michigan residents, etc., etc. Option one is valid, especially because our winner is not profitable yet, just break even. And I honestly always testing complete new angles, even if you were profitable. I will still try to be testing completely new stuff because it's so important. And then option three also shows you that it all depends on the testing budget that you're comfortable with and how close you are to profitability. Because if you're comfortable with increasing your budget, in this case, I'll both test a small variation of your winner, which is actually not a profitable winner, but still the better ad that you have, and test a completely new ad because now I'm both trying evolution scaling, but I'm also trying testing completely new ads to find new winners. So now let's connect all the dots. Let's connect the dots from this evergreen checklist we saw before, because you really need to prioritize real winners. So winners that are actually profitable for over a day. In the example before, it wasn't profitable yet. So I wouldn't be 100% comfortable yet of just applying evolution scaling and coasting off of it. I would still want to be testing completely new ads to make sure I'm finding real winners. And typically, guys, the difference between a real winner and mediocre ads is going to be huge. A real winner sometimes is going to be 100% ROI day one, honestly. And this is something that you might find day one, but it's rare. A lot of people do, but it's rare, right? It's not the most common thing. The most common thing is that maybe you have to test 10, 20, even 50 ads sometimes to find a winner, but it doesn't matter because the few winners that you're going to find are going to pay for all your testing. That's why this process is so powerful, because there is an asymmetry of profits. Once you find ads that are profitable and you start creating variations and making them even better, you're going to make more and more and more money. And these ads are going to make you more and more and more money. So it's not a problem that you need to test a lot before you find the very first few ones. For some people, it takes weeks. For some people, it takes days. Hopefully for you, you find day one. But if it takes weeks, it's not a problem because your winners are going to pay also for your losers, right? So for your testing. So this is how it all ties to vertical and horizontal scaling. You might have heard these words before. If you haven't, it's all good. But here in this slide, it's a very important slide as well because we're going to cover vertical, horizontal scaling and evolution scaling, also called variable scaling, in the next few classes in practice. So this is the last slide where I really want you to understand the concepts. Vertical scaling is the first way of scaling your winners. And when we're talking about scaling, it's always talking about the winners. If you don't have winners yet, you need to make sure you're always testing completely new ads and pausing your losing ones, as we saw in the $1 million testing protocol. But now we're in the scaling protocol. So vertical scaling is increasing the budget on an already profitable ad set or campaign. By definition, you can't scale your budget in an ad because the budget is always in an ad set, which is called ABO, or a campaign, which is called CBO. So this is just a way to increase your overall budget or increase the percentage of your winning budget. Horizontal scaling means duplicating an ad set or campaign with or without different variables. So evolution scaling, you're just doing horizontal scaling, but you're being strategic. Evolution scaling is just a better way to do horizontal scaling because you're not just increasing the budget on your winners, you're duplicating your winners and trying to improve them in the duplicated versions. So most people do this without a process or framework. When you do this with winners and systematically, like a scientist, you're actually doing evolution scaling. So obviously you can always combine the three of them, horizontal, vertical, and evolution scaling. Actually, even a spoiler, in a very advanced strategy is because in every account, there are a couple ways that work and a couple ways that don't work. And this varies by account. There have been accounts where I was just doing vertical scaling and I could just keep doing that and it worked. Obviously, sometimes there's always going to be a cap. So you can't do that maybe at 100K a day. Maybe it's going to be 50. Maybe it's going to be $100 a day. Maybe it's going to be $50 a day. Maybe it's going to be 1,000. So you need to test it out. But the bottom line is you need to find what way of scaling works for your specific account. So you need to be testing variable scaling. You need to be testing obviously different variables, so ABO versus CBO, state-based, different angles, completely different ads always. And you can just test also just vertical scaling or just horizontal scaling, so just duplicating your winners with the same spend, which in turn, once you're duplicating your winners, and by winners, once again, real winners are going to be profitable ads. In the previous example that we saw, the concrete example we saw in this class, I was calling it a winner, but it was a loose definition of a winner because it wasn't actually profitable. It was just the best ad I had at the time, right? But when you're actually duplicating your winners, so your profitable ads, this frees up more testing budget so you can actually use it back in the evolution method in the horizontal scaling. So here what's coming next, guys, we're going to see vertical scaling in practice and actually horizontal and evolution scaling in practice as well. I'm going to show you a lazy person's trick to track vertical scaling in your ads manager, which is a really cool trick that I found as a media buyer for all these years. I think you're going to like it. And we're also going to find about new campaign structures to test with evolution scaling. This is really advanced knowledge, guys. Actually, it took many years to learn all this, which is great. So if you're feeling left behind or you're struggling to understand, don't worry, rewatch the classes. There are so many classes to rewatch at this point, I believe. And you can obviously hop on the live trainings as well, where we ask and answer more advanced questions as well. This is really advanced that I've used for the entirety of my media buying career and that you use in the entirety of your media buying career in the pay-per-call world and honestly for anything else you want. So we're going to see this in practice. Hold tight. I'm going to show my screen, share my screen, and share exactly how I do this in my campaigns day by day. So see you in the next classes.